audience, we have a beautiful artist that has a 4-octave range, rich and sultry. She's an opera star turned into a jazz star. Miss Rose Kingsley.
Hi everybody. Hello. Great to be here.
All the students are missing you.
Oh, I miss them too. I had such fun. It was about a year ago. I did a master class, or a year and a half ago, or
Yeah, I think it's a year and a half now.
right. Oh, that was such a great day.
Yeah,
Just had a great time with them.
I loved it, and I loved how you taught about music, about opera, about jazz, and then you let them sing and you worked
Yes.
with everybody.
Oh, that was a real hoot. And what was so interesting to me is that I never really worked with somebody with a disability.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't know what to expect, and then tell this to everyone that I talked to, and I tell them my experience. But they were so sharp, so on to exactly what the corrections I made to them vocally, and they did it. And that was so exciting for me to see how quick they pick up.
Well, it's amazing in the sense that we have Emmy winners. We have artists that travel around playing Bach and Chopin and on the piano and sing and dance. So it's a wonderful group. I call it family.
Oh, they're wonderful. They really are. They really are. And I loved your blind pianist.
Uh, Rex Lewis Clark.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, he's so
And
amazing.
and it was funny because I knew he played the piano, and then he started with O Sole Mio. Oh my gosh, that voice that came out.
All right, Patrick.
Yes.
Sorry.
Right. I think he was on 60 Minutes many years ago.
Rex was playing the piano. He was on 60 Minutes, and then Patrick sings with them. They have Rex and Friends, and they perform all the time, all around.
But I think Rex sang O Sole Mio that day. He played it and sang, and it was a beautiful voice.
Yeah. Rex is amazing, and a lot of people. Patrick's wonderful. So.
Oh, I know.
Now, what about you? What about you? When did you first want to sing? When did you know it's like I'm a singer?
Well, my mom told me when I was like 2.5 years old, I would dance around the living room and sing. Totally. And 3 years old, she said, well, would you like to go to dancing school? And I said, yes, I want to go to dancing school. So she took me, and the first day, the teacher asked me to do something, and I couldn't do it. And so I got insulted, being the artist I am. It started at a young age. And I sat and cried, and she took me back 4 or 5 times. I wouldn't dance. I sat and cried. She goes, well, I guess you don't want to be a dancer or a singer. And I said, no. About a year and a half later, I had a parakeet. His name was Pretty Boy.
Oh.
And I loved him. And I woke up one morning, and my mother told me Pretty Boy went to heaven. So she said, what would you like, another bird or a toy? And I said, no, I want to go to dancing school. She said, but I took you. And I said, yeah, but I want to go again. And that was it. I waited every Saturday morning with bated breath for my dancing school class. And by the time I was 7, my dance teacher told my mother, she's going to be a ballerina. She's got the makings for being the way she carries herself, her grace, her carriage, her posture, the way she's built. And that was it. It was my dance. And then, of course, I started to incorporate my singing. And when I was 12, I started voice lessons. And I originally started to sing Broadway. And I wanted to do Broadway. And at the time, Funny Girl was on Broadway. And, of course, Barbara became my idol.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, I got a contract with American Ballet Theater and dance with ABT.
Yeah.
And I danced with the Royal Ballet for a bit. I'm still a member of the Royal Academy of Dancing.
Oh, I love it.
Quite an honor. And when I taught dance, I continued the Royal Academy of Dancing method of teaching good ballet to, it's an international school. Because sometimes there's such bad ballet taught, and you really need a watchdog. And the RAD, the Royal Academy of Dancing, is a watchdog because they come and test your children every year and see if you're teaching them correctly. So that was wonderful. So then I got to the Metropolitan Opera in the Corps de Ballet, and that's another long story. And there I was on stage with greats, Renata Tebaldi. I stepped on Maria Callas's foot one day.
Oh no!
Yeah, I did. And Birgit Nielsen, she stepped on my foot. And there I was on stage with these amazing voices. And I felt my soul there. And I said, okay, I know what I want to do now. My second venture. And that's how that all started. And I applied to Juilliard.
One second, you froze there. You froze there. You applied to Juilliard.
Because yes, my father wanted me to have a degree. So at the time, Juilliard had just moved to Lincoln Center. So I applied and I was accepted as a voice student. And then one of the conductors at the Metropolitan Opera, of course, knew me, and he said, what are you going to do? I know you're a ballerina. I said, well, I'm going to go to Juilliard and major in voice. And I had been studying privately, and he said, well, I'd like to hear you sing. And I said, okay. So he took me into his studio and he said, just what I thought, you have an amazing voice. And he sat down and he said something back then, that a school is only as good as its teachers.
Yeah.
And at the time there were five voice teachers there. And he said, I'm going to say something and I hope you listen to me. He said, but I'm not thrilled with the voice teachers over at Juilliard. He said, how would you like if you got your vocal training here at the Met? And I said, okay. So he said, I'll take you on as a student, and you'll get your training here. And if you want to go to Juilliard, you can go as a special student, which I wound up doing, and got my voice, my languages and my musicology over there. But my voice training came from Adriana Petronio and Gildo D'Annunzio, who were both conductors at the Metropolitan Opera.
Wow.
So that's, I came, there I was, working with these great conductors who would work with Tebaldi and Callas. And so it was really very, very special to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how that happened.
I mean, to study at the Met.
Yeah, they gave me. And then when I guess I graduated from Juilliard, and then I had an opportunity to sing with the Florida Grand Opera. And we moved to Florida, and then I sang with the Houston Grand Opera. And 10 years later, I thought it was time to go back and audition as a major artist at the Met, because I had now gathered all my experience, being on an opera stage, not just dancing, but singing with the Florida Grand Opera. I did the Magic Flute, I did the Merry Widow. And so I went back, and a funny story, I was living in Houston at the time, and I brought in an accompanist from Houston who, let alone had never been to New York. Now she was going to play on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera for me. And she was more nervous than I was. Yeah. And I said, okay. And we get to New York, and I got on the stage, and way in the back, I hear this voice who said to me, well, how the hell are you? And I couldn't see. And I said, oh, he goes, it's me, Larry Stayer. Larry Stayer was artistic director at the Met, and he remembered me from being a ballerina. So I said, I'm fine. He goes, well, wait. You know, he had my resume in front of him. He said, so you're living in Houston, and blah, blah. And I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he said, great. Well, it's great to see you back here. He said, so what did you bring for me to hear? I said, well, I brought the 2 arias from the Magic Flute. I brought the aria from La Boheme and Michaela from Carmen. And then I said, or I could do the dying act of Swan Lake. And he said to me, without a hitch, he said, I've seen enough dying acts today. Let's hear the aria from the Magic Flute. And I did it, and he liked it. And then he said, what else did you bring? And I sang. And when I walked out, he said to me, now, is this where I can get a hold of you? Is this where you're living in Houston? I said, yes. So as I walked out, I said to my pianist, her name was Margot, I said, Margot, I think I did it. And she goes, are you sure? I said, no, I just knew. You can tell in an audition whether they like you or like, next, thank you. But he was really interested.
Yeah.
So I went back to Houston, and 2 weeks went by. I didn't hear from him. I thought, oh, no. So only Rose could do this. I picked up the phone, and I called the Met, and I asked for Larry Steger. And they put me through to a secretary, and she said, who's calling? And I said, Rose Senerke at the time. And she said, hold on. And I waited for about 3 minutes, and he came on the phone, Larry. And he goes, well, I was just about to pick up the phone and call you. Oh, I said, great. And he got really quiet, and he said, well, do you want to know the truth, or do you want me to lie to you?
Oh.
And I thought to myself, could you lie? Because I sensed, you could lie to me, it's okay. And he said, well, let me tell you, you probably have one of the greatest voices I've ever heard in my life. And I was standing, but there was a chair behind me, and I just kind of collapsed into it. And there was a but to it. There was a but. But I heard what I needed to hear. He said, but you're like a wild stallion, and it needs to be contained and controlled. He said, so let me ask you another question. How much do you want this? How much do you want to come back here and sing at the Met? And I said, are you kidding? Just tell me what I need to do. And he said, okay, I'm going to take a chance with you. And he said, you're a year older than you should be in the Young Artist Program. He said, but I'm going to bring you back here, and I'm going to put William Bendiche and Richard Wojtak, who are great, amazing conductors. They're going to be in charge of you. And they're going to get you to the point where I think you're ready to stand on that stage. So that's how I got back to the Met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a great story. And, today, Bill Vendiche, who was responsible for me, who lives in LA now, he was also, he left the Met, and he became musical director of the LA Opera. He, when Domingo wasn't there, he would take over for Placido. And when I started my school, the International Opera Institute, Bill would come and work for me and work with my singers. So we're still good friends. As a matter of fact, you called me about a week ago, and he goes, well, now that you're such a big pop star, he said, do you have time for me?
Oh.
So anyway.
Well, you mentioned opera. So you mentioned Domingo.
Yes.
So what's a story that you
What
have?
kind of story do you want?
Oh, well, I don't know. Throw one out. One of your favorite stories with Domingo.
Oh my gosh. Let me see. Okay. My daughter was 13 at the time, and I was home at night, and I had met, had worked with him and seen him, and he was, of all the singers, like if you compared Pavarotti and Placido and Jose Carreras, Domingo was the consummate singer, because although Pavarotti had an amazing voice,
right,
Domingo was a great actor. He was an amazing musician. He could play piano and a great singer. And he had the whole package. Do you know what I'm saying? Pavarotti had the great voice. Pavarotti was not always the great actor. A lot of times he would just stand and sing, and it was amazing. The same thing with Carreras. But Placido had the whole Megillah, as they call it, you know, and he was so passionate. He loved his women. Anyway, so he called me one night, and my daughter answered the phone, a typical young teenager, and she goes, "Hello?" And he said, "Oh," and it's funny because Placido has a very, you think because he's got a big voice, he's got a very high voice, a very forward sound, I should say, as he sings forward. And he goes, "Oh, hello, is Rose there?" And my daughter said, "Yeah, who's calling?" And he goes, "Oh, it's Placido Domingo." And she goes, "Hold on." And she yells down and says, "Ma, Placido's on the phone." And I'm like, oh gosh. I got on the phone to compensate for her. I went, "Hello." And he asked me, he said,
Wait. One second. Wait a minute. 1 second. Okay, now. And he said,
"Tomorrow night, I am," because Placido also, in his advancing years, became a conductor. He would conduct at the Met too. Yeah. Because he was a great musician. So he said, "I'm conducting. I'm not going to be singing Tosca, but I'm conducting." And afterwards, there was a party for the King and Queen of Norway. And he said, "Would you like to be my escort for the evening?" And I said, "Sure." So he said, "I'll leave tickets at the box office for you, and you come and sit in my box." And
oh, nice.
So I said, "Okay." So I got all, as they say in Yiddish, do you know the word verpitzt?
Oh, yeah.
Verpitzt means I was like Miss America, right? So I get to the Met, and I'm sitting in his box, right? His private box. And I'm kind of looking at the orchestra, and nothing started yet. And about 2 minutes later, this gorgeous brunette comes, and sits right next to me. And she's kind of primping and looking around. And I said, I said, "You are a guest of someone's?" And she said, "Oh, yes, I'm from Argentina. I am mezzo soprano. I am guest of Mr. Domingo." And I went, "Oh, great." And about 2 minutes later, this gorgeous redhead comes and sits on the other side of me. And I looked at her and I said, "So you're a singer?" "Oh, no." She goes, "I'm an actress." I said, "And you are the guest of Placido?" "Oh, yes." So I was supposed to go down to his dressing room at the end of the first act. So I looked at the mezzo and I said, "And you're going down second act?" She went, "Oh, yes." "And you're third?" "Oh, okay, I got the whole picture." So I go down to his dressing room after first act, and he was serving tea, and his agent was there, and everyone was there. And I said, he said, "Oh, thank you for coming. We'll go to the event later." I said, "Great." I said, "So, who are your other friends?" I said, "Are they dessert?" And he laughed. He went, "Oh, no, they are just my friends. They're not going to the event with me." I went, "Oh, okay." And it was very interesting. He loves women. Placido loves women.
And he took you as his date?
Yeah, well, as his guest, yeah.
I love that.
Yes, no, there was nothing between us. It was strictly professional. He liked me, I liked him. And when I did my big event for Alan Shepard at the Washington Hilton Hotel, celebrating Alan Shepard's 30th anniversary in space, right. They asked me to sing, and I invited Placido to come with me and sing with me.
Well, I love the history that you have.
It's crazy, right?
It's amazing. I mean, you sang for 3 presidents, right? Or you?
I did. I sang for Bush Senior,
Uh-huh.
and there's a quick story. Am I running out of time, or can I
No,
keep?
we're fine. We're fine.
Okay, all right. So this was in New Jersey, and they asked if I would sing the national anthem for President Bush, George H.W.
Yeah.
And I said, sure. So it was in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I got to meet the president, and then told us it was time to go on stage. So there was Secret Service in a line, then President Bush, then Secret Service, then me, then Secret Service, because we were all in a line. Well, the Secret Service right in front of me was carrying, from what I understand, was called the football, meaning that if there was a nuclear war, the president was always within, having the red phone or whatever to see what's going on. And so the Secret Service in front of me dropped the suitcase, and all these cards fell on the floor, and they were numbered 1, 2, 3, and I think, I don't know, I think it was what to do in the case of a nuclear attack or something, right? Well, because Rose is who she is,
Yeah.
I wanted to help. I wanted to help pick up these cards on the floor. And as I bent over, I felt something grab the back of my dress and pull me up. And it was a Secret Service. And he didn't want me to touch those cards. Because, he was really helping me, as I found out later, because had I touched one of those cards, I would have been interrogated for a long time.
Oh my.
So I felt this pull me up, and then the Secret Service in front of me was putting all the cards and throwing them in. And of course, I was a smart ass. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, "You're not in order."
Oh, no.
He didn't laugh.
He didn't laugh. Oh, my
But
God.
then I sang, and then I have a picture of President Bush came up to me, and he said, "I want you at the White House. I want you to come and sing for me at the White House." And then I did a fundraiser for William J. Clinton, and that was in Houston. I raised him that night. We raised $1.2 million.
Oh, how wonderful.
And then I did the Bob Hope special, and Jerry Ford was there, and I got to sing for Jerry Ford, and he was lovely. Big man, very, very tall. He's like 6'4".
Right.
Anyway, but so it's been and then I did His Royal Highness, Prince Charles.
Oh, wow.
Goes in
all around the world you've been with this beautiful
exciting
voice. Now, most of that was for opera?
Yes, I was singing opera, and I would throw in a couple of Broadway things, like from Carousel, and like "Do If I Loved You," things like that. But I was not singing jazz at that time.
Right. When did you start singing jazz?
About 7 years ago. Here in Palm Springs, there is a place called Vicky's of Santa Fe, which is pretty well known for jazz. And a friend of mine, Pat Rizzo, who is one of the great sax players. He played for Sly and the Family Stone. Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I love Sly.
Yeah, he played for them. And when I moved here, he said to me, "Oh, you're an opera singer, and you're at the Met." And he said, "Do you know my uncle, who was music librarian at the Met for 40 years?" I said, "Of course I know your Uncle Johnny." So we became friends, and every time Pat would play, even at Vicky's, he would call me up. But I would do something kind of operatic, or something. Well, this one night he called me up, and I don't know what possessed me, but I did a jazz song, and he fell off his chair. And he said, "I didn't know you could sing like that." Yeah, I do occasionally. And he said, on the piano was Bob Corwin, who was Johnny Mercer's son-in-law. And he said, "You need to get with this man here."
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. And Bob and I have been together for 7 years as my musical director. And he played for Johnny for 20 years, collaborated with Johnny, and wrote songs with Johnny, traveled with him, And he was also musical director for Peggy Lee, Carmen McRae, and Nita.
Mm.
And now at 86, he's mine. I mean, as musical director, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And we just did a recording at Capitol Records.
Yes, a full album?
Full album. And it was supported by the Mercer family. Right. It was, we're very close with Mandy Mercer, who was Bob's wife. And she lives here in the desert. And Bob's son, who is Johnny's grandson. And they love, his name is Jim Corwin. And they said, why don't you do, since my father was Johnny's pianist, and he's 86, and we love what you do with my grandfather's music. We love your drama, because he would have loved it. Why don't you do a record? Why don't you do a CD of my grandfather's music? And they arranged it at Capitol Records, because Johnny started Capitol Records. Mm. And we got there, we did it in February, and it was so surreal. They gave me Frank Sinatra's microphone.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and then, I mean, just being in that shrine, and it was amazing.
Well, you knew Frank.
I did. Yeah. That's another story. No. It's a good story.
Yeah.
But
oh, hold on.
Capitol Records was, oh my gosh. I walked in there and I was like, I just looked, there's Frank's picture, Nat King Cole, Peggy Lee, and it was, but anyway, we just did a final mix, and it should be out in July.
Oh, that's perfect.
And
you could get it on your website, and
it's gonna be all over. And Seriously Sinatra will be featuring it, and we talked to them because they play my music now.
Yeah,
on Seriously Sinatra. So they're excited about it. They want me to do possibly a show, an interview with Johnny's grandson, and talk about Johnny Mercer and the new album that's coming out.
Right.
And it was great. And Bob and I did no trio. We did it with just piano, and it's stunning. Bobby is such a great. I mean, they don't make pianists like Bob Corwin anymore. He's really cool. I mean, I say the telephone rings, and he makes the telephone on the piano. I say it's the rain, and you hear dun 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 dun. You hear the rain, and or if I'm saying Laura, and on the train that is passing through, you hear the train passing through. He's phenomenal. We complement each other. He is an accompanist. He's just not a pianist, and there's a difference.
Yeah, yeah. So,
yes.
This is a two-part question. What is your favorite opera piece to do? And what is your favorite jazz piece?
Okay. Well, I wound up in the opera world, about 10 years into my career, a serious career, that I was told by a wonderful conductor and musical director from the Houston Grand Opera, named of John DeMaine. He said to me, Rose, they originally had me as a soprano, a very high soprano. And he said to me, Rose, you're not, I said, you're a dramatic soprano, which is lower but bigger sound. Anyway, I wound up singing all the crazy roles. Like my signature was Salome by Richard Strauss. Yeah, I know. Insanity. If you like, insanity, incest, blood, guts, that's the opera for you. It's not going to be a Disney remake anytime soon, but that's my role. And I just love it. It's a story of John the Baptist who gets his head on a platter, and I do it to him. And then I've sung Wagner and Electra, Strauss, Wagner. Have I sung Puccini? Yes. Do I love Puccini? Yes. He tears your heart out. Oh, gosh, he can do that. But my favorite, yes, is probably Salome. That's my signature role. I have a lot of stories about that too. Jazz, well, I love singing the blues, and I don't know where that came from. I just settled right into that. And one of the songs, of course, was Johnny's Blues in the Night. And I really nailed that one. And I don't know how a Jewish opera singer got to be a blues singer. I really don't, because I love the blues. I just,
Yeah.
wow, I just feel it.
Yeah. And I tell you, and that's one of the most important things, is to feel it.
Oh, I do. I just, and then, I got a great compliment from the engineer at Capitol Records, because a lot of the 12 songs we did one take. And I'd say, can we do another take? And the engineer, honey, that was fabulous. I don't think you need a take, And we had Johnny's family there, his grandson, and I'd look out at Jim and he'd say, "That's good to me." I don't, okay. But yeah, I mean, the Mercer, I put emotion. I think what a lot of jazz, and it's just coming to me now. A lot of jazz singers don't know what to make of my voice, because I sing with a full sound. That's my opera training. Mm-hmm. So I sing with, it's a typical full versus being a sound. Yeah. And I'm dramatic. So I recently sang for someone who's a musician, and he said, Rose, you really have a unique sound, because it's full like an opera singer, and you're dramatic, and you dramatize each word. And he said, I can see where other singers who are doing jazz and may not quite get you for that, Yeah. And it made me realize, I said, you know what? You may be right, But it's, I have a big sound, and it's even when Bob says, he goes, wow, you've got a big sound. And I said, yeah, I know. But that's the opera training. And
that's you. It comes through. It's your special mix. Like he said, unique.
Yeah, I am unique. We know that.
Being unique. Question. What is one of your most cherished moments?
Oh my gosh. Oh. Gee, there's so many. I don't know. Well, you mean musically or
in life?
In life. Well, I had an idol when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Because the other part of me, what you don't know about me, is that I also had a tremendous interest in space when I was 7, 8 years old. I had a neighbor who we were friends, and he was interested in space. And I became very interested in space. And what you don't know, I don't think you know it, I have a new show called The Diva and the Astronaut. Oh. And it's my memoirs. And we did it right before the virus hit to a full audience in a performing arts center here. And people went crazy over it, because it's the story of my life. But people didn't know that, I guess by the time I was 13, 14, I had to make a decision whether I wanted to be an astrophysicist or go in the music field. Wow. I mean, that's how serious I was. When the original 7 Mercury astronauts were introduced to the world, I became intrigued, and I became intrigued with one specific one. His name was Alan Shepard. And I didn't know why. I just didn't. But anyway, I wound up entering science fairs. I built the Mercury space capsule. I built, and I won first prize. And then I went on to build the Mercury Control Center at the Cape, won first prize. And it really, I wanted, my mother used to say, you'll dance on the moon, But, as because my music went out. And I carried a torch from my idol, Alan Shepard, for 25 years. I never met him, and then we moved to Houston, and that's part of the musical drama that I'm doing. I met him, and it was like meeting. I carried my idol, and yes, of course, I met presidents, and that's that's another feeling. But when you meet an idol and your idol turns out to be everything and more, that's very exciting. It really is. And then, of course, then we wound up with a 14-year relationship. Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah.
No, I don't know how
Oh, yes. And then I was asked when we lived in Houston, they were picking civilians to fly in the shuttle. And I was approached by a friend of mine who was a flight surgeon, and he said, how would you like to be the first artist to fly in the shuttle? And I looked at him and I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no, we were picking senators, of course, teacher, Krista McAuliffe. And I wound up coming over to NASA because we lived near NASA when I wasn't singing. Yeah. And I started training with the astronauts. And I trained in the shuttle.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I did. And
you got all of this, your wants all are coming true.
I really was excited about that. And then, of course, the Challenger happened, the Challenger incident. And then all civilians were, cut from. But I did get to be at NASA, and I got to be in the shuttle simulator, which was exciting. And I'm thinking, my gosh, this might really happen. But it didn't. But I came that close.
Well, the way that you told that story is amazing.
The what? I'm sorry?
The way you told that story is amazing.
Oh.
The beautiful, I mean, it really, I come back to the word that my dear friend Angela Rockwood says, manifestation. And you really seem to be a manifester.
I don't even know how that happens, but it does. And not only that, but who knew the feelings that I had for Alan Shepard that I carried for 25 years. He had for me. And we had, that's part of I should send you the video of the show.
I can't wait to see it.
You would love it. And everyone who saw it, the reviewers were like, they walked out of the theater. It was supposed to have been, and the script was written by Dr. James Hansen, who wrote the book First Man, and who produced the movie First Man with Damien Chazelle. And so he's a good friend of mine, and he came to Palm Springs and he wrote the script for me about my life and how my music and the diva and the astronaut and how everything just went like this. And my relationship with Alan Shepard. And part of the reason I came to California was because after 14 years, he had asked me to marry him. And the interesting part is that when we did meet, we were both married. And it was okay with both our spouses, they knew. How's that? So that's why you have to see that.
Well, listen,
to find out why.
This is, we're gonna, all of Performing Arts Studio West has got to, we're gonna find out when it, once we get out of quarantine land.
Yeah.
And you're performing the show.
Oh, you would. Well,
everybody know.
When we rehearsed it, the show went an hour and 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, the night I did it, it went 2 hours and 10 minutes without an intermission. And of course, I tell stories about, I know what happened on the moon with Alan Shepard, a lot of stuff that people don't know. And I started to embellish. And Norm, of course, is going, oh my gosh, she's going over it. Not one person moved. And at the end, everybody was in tears. They were all crying because the end is just takes your breath away. So that, and when I finished, there wasn't applause, there was like silence. And then people were, tears were coming down their face. So, I mean, it's an amazing play. It's a play music because I sing. I do a lot of songs that represent different parts of my life. I do opera. I do an opera and aria. I do. I start out with a picture of Alan, and it's video. There's a video and I sing Johnny Mercer's "I Remember You." Yeah, it's really cool.
I remember you.
On my CD. You're the one. You're the one that made my dreams come true. A few kisses ago. Yeah. Cool song. Cool song. Anyway, so it's been a crazy life, and yeah, it's not over yet.
Of course. There's a lot of stuff to do here.
And I have a new Judy show coming out.
Oh.
Judy Garland, yeah.
Wow. You just don't stop. You're constantly working, and it shows how much you enjoy it.
Oh no, if I would die and wither and die without it, But anyway, Judy, I wound up singing her songs, the trolley song. We do Rock 'em by your baby, Swanee, You Made Me Love You, Me and My Gal. Yeah. And Bob said to me, he said, Rose, I've been with you 7 years and you sing the Mercer so great. He said, but something about Judy's songs beat you like a glove. I'm having a great time with it. Yeah, I really am. So, and I think I sent you Over the Rainbow.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was so we do that July 26th. Thank goodness. Vegas is opening, and we're doing this in Summerlin in a wonderful a supper club. And it's very safe because they're doing like half, but they asked if I would come and do something. And I said, I got to get out and entertain. I mean, I need an audience.
Yeah. Well, you sure have an audience here that loves you, and we can't wait for you to come back to Performing Arts Studio West. And
I know, I want to see those wonderful, wonderful, talented artists, and they all are,
Well, send my love to your honey.
Yes, and I want to go over and hug you.
I know, virtual hug.
No, huggy, and come out and see us.
I'd love that. Well, very, very soon, hopefully. Very soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we love you.
The Diva and the Astronaut is the true story of a forbidden love between a rising opera star and a world-famous space hero. This one-woman musical drama starring Rose Kingsley will take you on a journey of love and discovery that you will never forget. Fairy tales can come true.
Mm-hmm.